All right, guys, we are back. It is episode 11 of the Raw Intuition Health Show. Let us know in the chat if you can see us and hear us. I think we should be good this time. Tina's here. What's up, Tina? Tina, great to see you. And hey, that rhymed. Yeah, sorry for the technical issues that we just had, but I think we got it figured out. And so, again, this is episode 11 of the Raw Intuition Health Show. We are joined by, as I was saying before, one of my very favorite guests to have on the show. It's Lissa Maris from Raw Food Romance. And, she's the queen of consistency, the queen of delicious, incredible raw food recipes, the queen of, just making this lifestyle attractive and just easy to do. So we're going to bring her in and she's going to share with us, we're going to have a discussion about consistency, how to incorporate consistency into your success plan, and how you can use consistency to make, so many things in your life so much more efficient and raise your chances of being successful. So, Lissa, thank you so much for joining us and being on the show.
Thank you so much, Matt. So wonderful. I hope everyone can hear me now.
It looks like everything's good.
Okay, great. And thank you for the introduction. I, as well, also absolutely love our talks. You're one of my favorite people to have conversations with as well, because we just have so many amazing things. And I learn from you, you learn from me, and everyone learns from each other. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's really, really cool. So thank you so much for having me on.
Yes. Thank you. All right, guys. So at the end of the show, as you know, we do the Q&A session. And in the Q&A session today, as always, I give away a free ebook. And so somebody's going to get 21-day raw transformation program who asks a question. And Lissa has offered to give away it's a free download, so you don't even have to win in the Q&A session. You just got to go to the link that I'm going to have in the description box down below, and you can get an incredible vegan resources guide that has websites, books, video suggestions for how you can really increase your knowledge and increase the ease of being on this lifestyle through the resources that she has provided for people. And so definitely recommend going to her site, which is again going to be linked in the description box, and pick that up. So, all right, I'm excited for this discussion. Lissa, let's have you start us off with, what first comes to mind with consistency, and how do you, generate consistency in your life, or how do you utilize consistency?
Yes, I love this topic. I'm so glad we're talking about it because I've
Yes.
got a huge list to
Nice.
chat about. Um, but when it comes to like the top thing, it's really hard because there's so many good things about consistency. And that's why I love that we're having this conversation, because there's
Mhm.
so much. But to start with, I would have to say focus is probably the most important, focusing one day at a time. So when I first started my raw journey, every day I would tell myself, today I'm choosing raw food. And because a lot of people feel overwhelmed when they start a new diet, a new exercise routine, or they want to start going to bed early, or whatever it is they're trying to do. And they can feel overwhelmed because they're focusing either on all the information that they have to know right now, right, to be perfect,
Yeah.
or they're focusing on the long term. Like, I have to be raw for 30 days, or I have to be raw for 2 years, or I need to be raw for the rest of my life. And that can feel really scary for some people, especially when they're letting go of so much of their past habits and they're starting to practice their new habits. Focusing too far down the road can feel very overwhelming. So in order to deal with the overwhelm is to just focus one day at a time. Focus on today. That's really the only day that matters. So if you focus on today, you plan out your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you just worry about today, then just do the same thing again tomorrow. And that builds consistency without having to feel like you need to be consistent for a year. Just start with today, and then that will slowly build over time. So that was one of the things that really helped me in the beginning, was to just focus on today.
Yeah, I love that. Breaking it down, yeah, like you said, so it's not such an overwhelming thing. Super helpful. That's been helpful for me as well. The first thing, that I had written down, which is it's kind of ties in with what you just said. I started to look at like when I was looking at one day at a time, I was like, like what did I do yesterday that worked? And it was like I just kind of started like a snowball effect of momentum of where I just looked at the days I was successful. I started to just kind of analyze what was working, and I tried to repeat that next day. And I was just going to try to do it again that day. And then the next day I would look at, okay, what was I successful with yesterday? And then, so it would just keep building and building. And that's really how I kind of got into, promoting my kind of daily meal design is what I created was the SFS, the smoothie fruit salad kind of routine. And that's just what became, routine for me. It became easy. And so when it was easy, and I think that's an important part also is find things that you find to be, helpful for you, beneficial for you, that lead to your success and that they're easy. So when you make things easy, they're more likely to be repeatable. And so when I started looking at what I was being successful with, so I was like, okay, I love making smoothies, or like it's super easy to make a smoothie. So I was just made that my breakfast like every morning. So I would just make a big smoothie for breakfast, and then also I kind of broke it down even less, or more from just one day at a time to one meal at a time. And so I started with just breakfast. And that was kind of my first focus was just, it's the first thing I'm doing in the day pretty much. I'm just going to focus on getting this right. And so again, it was easy to make a smoothie. And so I just started building my momentum with my breakfast. And then once I got that down, I started focusing on my lunch. And I liked having fruit for lunch. And so I just had the fruit. Then I started making my salads, which I had already been making salads, but making it a consistent thing every single day, because before I was doing it just a few times a week, which was great. It kind of, again, like conditioned my microbiome and helped me get a taste for greens and just like, all the good stuff that comes along with that. But yeah, it was just building that routine, finding what worked like yesterday and what was easy to be repeatable. Yeah, those are kind of some of the things that I thought of when I was thinking about like how did I build such a consistent routine. And that's kind of how I did it. It was just, looking at things that were easy to repeat and focusing on that and then building off of it.
Yeah, I love that you said repeat often because we need to repeat that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because consistency equals repetition, right?
Right.
The more you repeat something, the more consistent you are with it.
Yep.
And we get good at what we repeat. We get good at watching Netflix after work. We get good at
Yes.
laying on the couch. We get good at going to bed late. We get good at skipping our workout. We get good at things we repeat. So if
Yeah.
we want to get good at choosing a salad, at choosing fruit, at choosing a smoothie, if we want to get good at planning our days and doing that, then we have to practice it. We have to repeat that. And the more we repeat it, the easier it gets. Because now, I mean, people look in and they're like, wow, you've been raw for 9 years. And, like, wow, you stay so consistent. I'm so inspired by your consistency. How do you do it? And now looking back, obviously I went through all the things that people usually go through when they change their habits, but now it's such a reality to us. And
Yeah.
it's just it's just what we choose. We don't really even think about any of the other stuff that we used to eat because our habits have become so solidified. But another thing I wanted to mention is on the whole, like, it's so far away, like being raw for a decade or never eating potato chips again, or never doing that again, or never whatever. It's hard for the human mind to embrace the word never. So what really helped me also, and that can help so many people, is instead of using the word never, use procrastination to your advantage.
Mm.
So we are super good at procrastinating. Like we procrastinate all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really easy to procrastinate. So we need to use that as to our advantage and start procrastinating on the things that we don't want to be doing anymore, right? So for example, say you really want to get in a good sleep routine and you want to start going to bed early. and you're like, oh, I really want to stay up late. Say, I'll stay up late another time, but tonight I'm going to bed early, right? So it's not never, it's some other time, which we usually do, right? Like, I'm going to start eating healthy next week or after this or after that, right? And that never happens, rarely.
Yeah.
So we use procrastination to keep us from doing the healthy things we want to do, so we can use it to, help us to not do the things. Like, if potato chips are something, be like, I'll have them some other time, which could mean never,
Yeah.
but you'll have them some other time. But right now I'm choosing an apple as a snack, right? And that really puts the power back into you, instead of the power being in the food's hand. Like, the potato chips have the power when you're like, I can never have them. It's such a boxed, enclosed feeling, right? When you can never have something.
Yeah.
But if you choose not to, you're like, I could have that if I wanted to some other day, but today I'm choosing something good for myself. That can really help you to continue to repeat those habits, right? To build into that consistency.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really about when I hear you say that, it's like I think of becoming more of the leader of your life, the CEO, as they say, and making that decision to put off that bad habit, or that thing that you don't necessarily feel like you should be doing. Yeah, you make the decision to put it off and see, come back to it later and see if that's something that you really wanted to do, and replace it with something that is good for you, like going to bed early. So I love that.
Yeah,
I love it.
exactly.
Cool. Yeah, and let's see. So let's see. My next one that I wrote down was let's see. I have a couple written down. I'm just trying to decide which one I want to go with.
I know,
Uh,
me too. I'm like, which one should I go next?
yeah. So I'm gonna go with push. So something that I've tried to become more consistent at over the last 12 years that I've been in this lifestyle, and that has really helped me with my success, has been consistently striving to get out of my comfort zone. That, just getting into this lifestyle was the beginning of that. And, because obviously I'm sure everybody understands this lifestyle isn't within most people's comfort zones. And so you have to deal with, the social issues and, travel and, figuring out how to eat differently than people. Um, so yeah, that I think getting out of my comfort zone on a consistent basis is something that, again, like Lissa was saying, the things you do repeatedly are the things you get good at. And so if you want to get good at getting out of your comfort zone, where you can start to become the person that you want to be, because in our comfort zone, it's great. But if we really want to bring out our unique talents and discover new things about ourselves, we have to get past that border. And so pushing yourself, and I'll just use, even, at the most basic of my, raw intuition life is starting this channel. Starting this channel. Growing up, I was always more of like a quiet kid, and I didn't really put myself out there that much, unless I was out partying or something and I was drinking, which I used to mask some of the issues that I had going on. So, but as a sober person, getting into social media and putting myself out there and getting out of my comfort zone and sharing a message that I felt passionate about was huge, and it really helped me to continue pushing myself and learning and wanting to help more people. And so that was like the first thing. And then there's things like, when I went to present at the Reducitarian Summit, which was like my first in-person presentation outside of, I do teach raw food classes in person at different co-ops and things, but this was the first time I was going to be in front of like hundreds or more people, talking about my story and my books and things. And so it's definitely different than talking to a camera by myself in my room, even though I've got you lovely people with me, but it's just a different energy when you're in front of, a bunch of people and yeah. So if you guys would have seen me, oh, my camera's zooming for some reason. Um, if you guys would have seen me for in college at my speaking, what is it, my speech class in college, oh my gosh, I was a mess. It was embarrassing. But now it's like, even with that experience and now going to this conference and presenting in front of all these people, um you know it wasn't, I have plenty of things that I could nitpick about my presentation, but it was overall, I think it was pretty good. And it's another stepping stone, because public speaking and just communication is something that I'm always trying to improve on. And so that was just one example of putting myself out there, like agreeing to go to this conference and speak. And so that was something that, I think is important for everybody to start doing, is like putting yourself out there in situations that you might be nervous about, or, you're not sure if you can do it. Test yourself, just push yourself and see if you can, if you can surprise yourself with some things that you can do. Because you would be surprised at, even before the speech that I gave, I was like super nervous, and I was like, oh God, I should just leave. I was like, I was there the day before, I was like seeing all the people in there, I was like, oh, maybe I should go home. They'll never even know I was here. But no, I was like, no, I gotta stay, I'm gonna do it. And so I did it. It went well. And again, you can just surprise yourself with doing things that you thought, were going to be super hard. They turn out being, especially if you put the work in to really prepare yourself, you can do things that you didn't think you could do. And at the conference, I met a lot of people that, I've seen online. I met Robert Cheek. I saw John Pierre, the guy that does a program with Chef AJ. Mark Renfield I met, who I didn't know at the time. I didn't know of him, but he's been inducted into the Vegetarian Hall of Fame. And yeah, so I made some new friends, some really inspiring people that it was great to connect with. And I met other people that, people that I just have connection with on from the show or from social media. So it was a great experience, and I never would have gotten to meet these people if I had not put myself out there and gone to that event. So, yeah, just putting myself out there on a consistent basis and pushing my limits, I think, has been something that I've become consistent at, and also that spreads to so many other areas of my success, and just makes me better in so many different ways. So that would be something I would encourage people to do, is just put yourself out there, push your limits, get outside your comfort zone, and you'll be surprised at how much better your life becomes.
Oh, I love that. It flows really nicely into mine.
Sweet,
My next
sweet.
one.
Yes.
So, yeah, speaking of putting yourself out there, also, like tying in with the repetition thing, like doing the hard things when it's uncomfortable. For example, going to your cousin's wedding, or going out to dinner with friends, or going to that backyard family barbecue or whatever. A lot of people, when they change over to a different diet than what everyone else is eating, they shy away from social situations because they are scared of what other people are going to say. They don't want to have conversations with people about what they're eating, and they just don't want to go. And over time, remember, we get good at what we repeat. And if we stop going to social situations because of our diet, then we get good at not going to social situations because of our diet. So what I like to say is, change the mindset, change the frame around how you feel about the social situations, because your family's not all going to go raw overnight with you, and everything's going to be like a utopia and everything's going to be fine. But you don't want to isolate yourself either. So if you switch the mind shift between being scared of going to the social situation and being excited for the challenge of it, getting out of your comfort zone, that can really help. So what really helped me in the beginning was to get excited about how I could do raw in this situation instead of being scared to do raw in this situation or worried about what other people were going to say. So when I would go to a wedding, I would be like, all right, I'm excited. I'd pump myself up. I'd be like, how am I going to do this? I'm going to do this, right? So I'd get
Yeah.
excited about going to the event as a raw vegan instead of feeling scared to go to the event as a raw vegan. And that involves a lot of planning, a lot of decisions in advance. What are you going to eat there? Maybe you have to call the bride, or you have to call your family and be like, what's going to be served there, or whatever you need to do. Go call the restaurant, bring your own food. What do you need to do in order to make that event successful? Because it's easy to choose raw food when you have a nice Sunday off and you can make any raw food recipe you want. You can go to the market. It's a good day. It's in the middle of summer. You've got an abundance of produce and everything is easy. It's easy to make those choices during those days. That's not where the growth happens, though. The growth happens when you make those choices when it's challenging, when you make raw choices in the middle of winter, when you make raw choices at the wedding, when you make raw choices at the family gathering, when you make raw choices when your timetable is full up, when you have kids, when you don't have kids, when whatever, right? Because there's always going to be a challenge. There's always going to be another birthday. There's always going to be another road trip. There's always going to be another social situation. There's always going to be another holiday. It just is. So if we can take those challenging situations and repeat the positive choices during those challenging situations, then it just becomes super easy with time. The more you practice, the easier it gets. And now, like when Nate and I go to any kind of a gathering or whatever, it's like super easy. We know what to take for our road trips. We know what to take on our traveling. We know what we can take on the airplane. We know what we can order at this whatever restaurant, because we took the time when it was hard in the beginning to make those choices and learn from our other choices. I don't like saying mistake because, a mistake is just an opportunity to learn. So we would learn from those times so that the next time we're faced with a similar situation, we know how we could do it better. And then every time we're faced with these new situations, we try. We don't shy away from them. We go and we enjoy and we do the things, but we just make different choices than other people do. And we just repeated that over time. So that would be my next one. Align with yours, like get out of your comfort zone and give it a shot, because like you said, you would be surprised what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you experienced that like with your recipes, with did you ever think when you started that you would be able to create the type of recipes that you're creating now? Oh, did think oh, what happened? Um, I think you froze. Hmm. Well, I can see you moving on. You're okay on my Zoom, but on OBS here, I don't. Here, all right. Let's of course. Gosh. All right, sorry guys. I don't know what this has never happened before, so this is a new thing. So let's see if all right, we'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Lissa is still frozen on my screen here, but let's do this quick. Getting out of my comfort zone, you guys. Ah, that didn't do anything. Okay, Why? Why? We'll be right back. All right, you guys. Oh gosh, I'm really zoomed in again. I don't know what this is weird. All right, so I'm going to just restart the system here because for some reason the feed from Zoom into YouTube is all messed up. So we will be right back. It's going to probably end the stream, so stick around. I hope you'll stick around. Join the once it pops back up, click on again and we'll finish off this episode. We've got a lot of great stuff left, so stick around. All right, thanks. I don't know. Is anybody in the chat? Can you leave a note for us if you're all here?
Nice. And if you can hear me.
Yeah. Yeah. According to my audio levels, your audio is great.
Perfect.
Yeah. Man, what a day.
Oh my gosh. But like you said, get out of the comfort zone, right? Sometimes technology pushes us when we don't push ourselves.
Exactly. Yes. Well, I'm not seeing anybody commenting here, so maybe they still have to rejoin. Anybody there? Jerry, are you here? Ah, there we go. Tina's back. Tina,
Hey,
you're
Tina,
the first one.
hey.
You're the first one in both times. I love it. Sherry, you're
Oh,
late. You're late, Sherry. Tina already let us know. All right, guys. I am so sorry. I don't know what's going on with my technology, but yeah, here we are. We're back. And so we are going to continue with our consistency conversation. And let's see. So, uh,
we were talking about the wraps and
oh,
how,
yeah.
how I didn't think that back then I would be making the recipes that I am now.
Yes.
And yeah, like back in the original days, like I tried to make different kinds of raw wraps, but none of them worked out for me. So I was always like, I guess wraps are out of the picture, right? Because they
Yeah.
just, I mean, I would do collared wraps and nori rolls and stuff, but
Mhm.
there wasn't like an actual dehydrated wrap that I tried that actually worked the way that I'd hoped it would. So when I pulled my the people following me and I was like, what do you want to see from me next? And everyone's like, raw wraps. I'm like, no, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
So I had to step out of my comfort zone and really like try like different combinations. And it got really frustrating because it's really hard. Like the wraps have to be like the exact ingredients in the exact amounts in order for them to work properly. Because if you take something out or you swap ingredients, most times it doesn't work the same way, or obviously not have the same flavor or whatever. So it was a big challenge, but I was up for it and it worked. And the universe or God or whatever gave me the tools I needed to make it happen. So stepping out of the comfort zone again, like you try new things, and even if you fail, like I said, I don't like using the word mistake
Mhm.
because it's not a mistake. It's just an opportunity to learn how you can do things differently or learn how you can make something actually work for you in your life, whatever that looks like. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Sherry just said, I'm waiting for Lissa or Annie to start shipping. So Annie said they're so delicious. Sherry asked what the wraps taste like. Every single person that I have heard or seen online making Lissa has like created this new wave. It's like a revolution with these wraps. Everybody is just incredibly like blown away by them. So yeah, so there. Apparently, Sherry needs you to make some and then ship them to her.
Right. I know we get asked that a lot.
Do you
Um,
really?
yeah, we do. The wraps, let's see if I can describe it. They're so unique, it's hard to describe. But if I had to choose something, it would be like an oniony, soft pita bread.
Mm,
And they're so much stronger than the regular tortilla, flour tortillas or whatever.
mm,
Uh, they hold a lot more, especially if you're using the 14 by 14 silicone trays to make them in the dehydrator. They're massive, like you can fit so much into the wraps. It's
yeah.
crazy. So they're super filling and they're mega gut friendly as well because I use psyllium, just a little bit of psyllium in each wrap.
Nice.
And the psyllium actually feeds the Roseburia bacteria specifically. I mean, it
Oh,
feeds other stuff too, but Roseburia creates butyrate, which is the anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory short chain fatty acid that we all should be making more of.
yeah.
So it's cool that it is actually gut friendly and it's super high fiber. They're low fat. And yeah, like even at True North Health Center, they want to be making those for people who are at the center. And I was like,
Really?
an honor. Yeah,
That's
because
amazing.
like they're made from primarily just fruits and veggies,
Yeah.
like omega-3, like a little chia and flax in there, but not
Yeah.
enough to be considered high fat.
Right.
But yeah, they are so good.
That's so cool. Congrats on that. That's that's an
Thank
honor.
you.
For sure. Very nice. Yeah. I what you were saying before was changing the way you approach like the situations that you're going into
Mm,
with your mindset. And
mm.
that was my next one. But so yeah, not to shift over already, but it just popped into my mind before I forgot it. Um, the mindset that we go into these things with, even like with the raps, like you went into the raps with that mindset where you got out of your comfort zone. You said you were gonna figure it out, even though it seems super difficult. I think that has been a big part of my success and being consistent as well. I think consistently having a positive mindset and believing in yourself to be able to do these things, like create the wraps or create these recipes or whatever it is. I think having a positive mindset going into it is like the most important consistent thing that you can do, because like some of the other things, it's going to be such a foundational piece of anything else that you do is that mindset that you go into it with, and believing in yourself, believing you can do it, and just believing that it's going to work out. Because yeah, and again, like Lissa said, like, what was it, God or the universe that like gave her, or like inspired her to make or figure out how to do the raps. I think getting into the flow state is how you tap into your intuition or into God or nature. How to really just bring out what you're meant to bring out is something that I am just always fascinated by, is getting into that flow state and just that really good energy. And I think having a positive mindset is a key aspect of getting into that connection. um and so, for me, way back in the day before I learned about this lifestyle, I had a very negative like self view, and just like, just I had some false beliefs and toxic thought patterns that I had fallen into. And it wasn't until I started getting more raw fruits and vegetables into my life that I started to kind of be able to see those things that I was like kind of had fallen into. And so through, that initial the juice fast that I did it when I first started, but then just incorporating more raw foods and just more plant foods in my lifestyle was a big part of waking up to, the the positive like energy that we all can tap into. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world that are like kind of, depressing maybe, but if you can find that thing within you that allows you to keep a positive mindset and know that things are going to work out, and know that life is happening for you and not to you. I think that's really key to enjoying not only this lifestyle but just enjoying life in general. And so, yeah, being able to recognize, evaluate your internal and your external environment. I think that's a key piece, because you have to be aware of what's going on, and that's kind of what's giving you your results. And so if you're not aware of it, you can't really change it. So kind of just take some time to analyze, what your thought patterns are typically like, how you're speaking to yourself, and also the external things like, the situations you put yourself in on a consistent basis. Are you around people that are negative and make you feel negative? Maybe you want to change that. Are you seeking out positive people like Lissa online? Or, are you listening to motivational videos or things like this? These are things that I switched in my life to start feeling that success and tapping into the flow state and tapping into my intuition. I used to listen to Les Brown and Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn, all these people every single day for hours a day for years. I just continue, like it was like a morning routine that I created where I would just listen to Jim Rohn for like two hours in the beginning of the day. And I think Les Brown was the first one I came across, and he really inspired me. But yeah, so I found, they weren't in-person mentors, but I found like mindset mentors online that I could kind of tap into their stories and their success and their inspiration. And so that, I think, is something I would recommend for people to get consistent on, is, finding positive, um, input. Find positive things in your environment so that you can it makes it easier to change your internal dialogue as well, and turn your internal dialogue to be more consistently positive. Um, so yeah, those are some of the things, and self-care. Self-care I think is important. Be consistent with your self-care, get sleep, get enough hydration, spend time around people you enjoy, and yeah, just set goals for yourself. I think setting goals for yourself. Now I'm kind of just listing off 100 things, but yeah, these are just some of the things that I thought of.
Yeah, totally. No, I know. I'm like, oh yeah, that's one on my list. Yeah, like self-care. Today is Sunday. Nate and I have a routine called Self-Care Sunday, where every Sunday we choose a different hike and we go for a hike together out in nature. We take our wraps with us. We have like one of our absolute favorite dinners. Like lately we've been eating a lot of this one. It's like a tahini dill style salad. We
Mm,
just I love it. But
nice.
and then I do like, my skincare routine. I do like a really in-depth kind of a routine on Sundays. And it's just a day where we can really enjoy just existing,
Yeah.
so to speak. But I wanted to really quickly chat because you're talking about positives and always looking at the positives and about yourself. I talk a lot about something called the reward cycle.
Mm,
And when we are making a choice and we're trying to be consistent in those choices, usually we're hungry. We've gone too long without eating. We didn't eat enough during the day. We're stressed out. We're tired, blah, 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 like all of those reasons, right?
yeah.
When it comes down to the moment where we're choosing what to eat, the vast majority of us are choosing what to eat in the moment. And we're choosing what to eat based on rewards because we're reward driven creatures. So we choose based on what reward are we going to get from that food. And most of the time, if we're choosing something like pizza or throw it in the oven, microwave dinner or takeout or whatever it is, bag of potato chips or some cookies, we're getting a reward from that. We're getting a dopamine hit. We're getting, fast sugar, maybe, or like whatever reward you're getting from that. Maybe you're feeling included in the group because it's a peer pressure thing. So that's a reward, right? Maybe it's comfort. Maybe it's easy. Maybe it's convenient. Like all of these can be rewards for choosing whatever it is you're going to choose. But most of us, because we are conditioned through our choices, through repetition, through consistency to choose pizza when we're hungry or choose takeout when we're hungry, we got really good at doing that. So we have to stop for a second. And this is where it's challenging because it's totally out of our comfort zone to stop and ask ourselves, what are the rewards from choosing something different? What are the rewards from making a smoothie? Right? Most of us think, oh, it's too much time, blah, blah, like they come up with justifications. Instead of coming up with justifications to not make the smoothie or the salad, come up with rewards. What are you going to feel when you choose the salad or the smoothie or the bowl of fruit or whatever it is? What are you going to feel about yourself? And how are you going to feel in your body? So when I do coaching sessions, I ask people, I'm like, tell me 5 things that you feel about yourself when you choose a salad. So what do you feel about yourself when you choose a salad? And most people are like, oh, that's a hard one. Like they don't really think about this kind of stuff. So I push
Hmm.
them out of their comfort zone. I'm like, you need 5 things, right? Some of the things that I feel are pride. Like I'm proud of myself for making that choice. I feel empowered, like I'm in control of my choices. I feel like I'm on track. I feel excited about my choices. Like these are feelings that we feel about ourselves. And of course, you're going to feel hydrated. You're going to feel light. You're going to feel nourished. You're going to feel all those things in your body. But what do you feel about yourself? And these are really powerful rewards. And it's like, I want to feel empowered and I want to feel excited about my choices and I want to feel these things about myself. And like not to focus on the justifications or the negativity, right? Because you'd be like, I'm going to feel guilty if I eat this, or I'm going to feel bad about myself. Like we don't need to think about those kinds of things. Let's focus on the rewards that we get and empower ourselves with those positive things, the positive results that come from that choice. And we're way more likely to choose the smoothie or the salad because you're like, yeah, I'm excited to have these feelings, right?
Yeah.
After I choose it. Because I'll ask people too, I'll be like, how do you feel after you choose a salad? And most people are like, I feel great. I feel like I made a good choice. I feel all these things. I'm like, that's what you're going after.
Yeah.
That's your reward. So the more you choose that, the easier it gets. The more you're like, yeah, I just want a salad because I know how I'm going to feel after I eat a salad. And that's what I want. So switching over the reward that you're going to get from whatever choice you're going to have can really help people to get more consistent.
Yeah, that is really good stuff. I really like that. Um, Sherry Sherry said it was funny listening to John Kohler's reaction to eating your wraps in the hotel room, I think it was. Um, but yeah. Um, so yeah, I think definitely that's something that even I could really think about in my choices is that yeah, just finding like coming up with 5 things of positive things that you feel about making, the choices that you're making. I think that's really nice. I like that.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like it can go for anything that you're trying to do in life. Like, for example, going to bed earlier,
Yeah.
right? It's like we all know the rewards of going to bed late. And that's why we do it because we get rewards. Like, I'm not saying there aren't rewards, but it's like, what rewards do you feel when you go to bed early and get like pumped up about going to bed early? Like, get excited about it. Like, I am so excited to go to bed tonight early, right?
Yeah.
And then like the more excitement you can create in your own mind and your body, the easier it is to make those choices. Like you can get super excited to make one of my wraps. You can get super excited to make one of Matt's 5-star salads. You can get super excited about these things, but it's all up here. Like you make yourself excited to do these things. Or you can make yourself not excited to do things. You can
Yes.
come up with any justification. So it's really all in your control, right? You can get excited to do the things that you want to do. You can get excited to go for a workout. Like you can get pumped up, even if you're not feeling like it. Like Nate and I, we've been really struggling over the years to like get into a good solid workout routine, and just recently over the last couple months we've been really super consistent. And I'm looking at it as like it's a date day with Nate. So it's like we get to go on a date to the gym, we get to hang out together. I get to drink water while I'm there, so I get to extra hydration. I get to go to the sauna after, I get to go to red light therapy after. Like I have all of these rewards tied to working out. So it's not just the working out that I get all these other things too. And I get
Yes.
excited about it. So that's getting me to go to the gym, which is a nice change.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's so cool. Um, oh my gosh. I wanted to say something about what you were just saying and
Oh,
oh man, it's been quite the day. Um,
right.
yeah, no, that was so good, and I had it made me think of something. um, yeah, but
Getting
anyways,
excited.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, okay. I
Okay.
think this is what I was gonna say. But basically, when you, okay, yes, okay, thank you.
Yay.
The mind. What I'm struggling with right now is so powerful. People, when you were saying how you can make yourself excited to go work out or to make a salad or to make the wraps, it's so like people do not appreciate the power of the mind and how and your power over the mind, right? Like you can definitely there's been so many times in my life where I've become conscious of how easy it was, even though I didn't think it was, but overall it was really easy to get excited about doing something I didn't really want to do. And like Lissa's been saying, like, how do you feel when you do these things? Like, we'll just say like the dishes. Like I used to hate doing the dishes, all right? And I just got myself excited. Like, it's not that I was like thinking I was excited, but it was just like you get yourself into that same level of energy that, when you're excited to do something, like you want to get it done. So I was just like, I want to get like I thought of how I felt after I had all the dishes done, so I would do them right away. And then it would give me that satisfaction of having the dishes being done. And then later, I had the extra satisfaction of not having to do the dishes at that time. So like when I just think of like the chores that I have around the house every day, like it's you get that extra satisfaction when you get them done early, and then later you have time to do whatever other things you want to do, right? And so it makes you feel good because you got something done, and even that is a dopamine reward, when you succeed at doing something. And like even just like making the bed, that's why it's a common thing that people try and focus on. First thing you check something off your list, it's making the bed, right? Because that gets you into that good state. And yeah, like if you can just try for a day of feeling excited, or just like recognizing the satisfaction you're gonna feel when you do something that you normally aren't looking forward to doing. You can get into the habit of getting into that state, and the reward, the results are like a great reward as well, because once you do it over and over and over, you start to really see the results of what that brings. And so I think, results are the biggest motivator, I think, for people. And once you see early results by, getting these things, getting rolling on some of these things that you've been putting off, or you just don't have a good mindset about, it can change so many things. It can just, it can just launch you into a path that you didn't think you could do. And so yeah, that's just what popped into my head.
Oh, that's good. I know. I'm so glad you brought that up too, because I have something to say on that as
Yeah.
well. Is we are so good at thinking about other people, like getting to work on time, or the customers we're serving, or our family, or meeting our friend for lunch, or going to our dentist appointment or whatever, right? We value those appointments and times and all of that, but we don't really value ourselves. So I tell people to put your future self as one of those people that you value their time, right? Like I'll say, like, my middle name is Eileen. So I'll be like, Eileen needs lunch tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
on top of all the other people that I'm thinking about Eileen as well. So Nate and I, sometimes when we're like, after a really long day, maybe we've been filming all day, or we've been doing this or whatever, all the things that we do. At the end of the day, we're like, oh, we wanted to have wraps tomorrow. It only takes 15 minutes to blend up 2 wraps for the next day. Really doesn't take that much time. But
Hmm.
after a really long day, I mean, we're still human too, right? Like we're not we're like, oh, I don't really want to make wraps.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just have a salad or whatever. It's like, but we really wanted wraps for tomorrow. So we think of our future selves. We're like, we've been getting into like a little routine of saying like, thank you, past self, for thinking of me, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't think of our future selves. We're disconnected from our future selves because they're not real. Our future self isn't real until the moment, right? Right now is the future self from before our call or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we're always living in the moment, but it's always the future version of ourselves. So we always thank our past selves. We're like, thank you, past self, for making the wraps, because now we have wraps.
Hmm.
So thinking of ourselves, not just the rewards that we'll feel, but thinking of how we will feel as our future selves, looking back and saying, I am so glad I made those wraps, or I'm so glad I filed those papers. I am so glad that I, went to that appointment, or did that thing, or went to the gym, or went to bed early. Like, I'm so grateful to my past self for making those decisions, so that in the moment when you're faced with that choice of going to bed late or going to bed early, think of your future self and say, my future self will probably be really happy that I went to bed early. So that's
Yes.
another thing that we can think about too, is our future selves.
Yeah, I love that. And it reminded me of the quote, uh do today what or be the person today that you want to be in the future, or something like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it better in my mind, but yeah, if you act today the way that the person that you want to be would act, then that's what you got to do. That's what you want to do. That's the person you want to be in the future. So you got to start acting like they would act today, and that's going to get you to where you want to be, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
That's like transition. A lot of people use the word transition as a justification. as they're moving over to a vegan diet or they're moving over to whatever. They'll use transition as a justification to keep doing the past habit, because they'll be like, well, I'm transitioning, so I'm still going to order this thing with cheese or whatever,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And it's like, but the period of transition is actually your practice period, where you're practicing what the future you is going to be choosing every day. So, like, for example, if you want to be an athlete, what do athletes do every day? You have to do today the thing that the athletes do. If you want to be a pianist, what do piano players do every day? They practice piano. So
Yep.
you have to do the thing that the pianist is doing, right? If you want to learn a new language, if you want to be fluent in a new language, what do people who are fluent in a language do? They speak the language, they learn the language. So you have to do that every day. If you want to be a vegan, you have to practice making choices that a vegan would choose. So when you're in a situation where you're looking at the menu and there's like nothing on there that's vegan, you don't use justification and be like, well, I'm in transition, so I'm going to have this thing because I can't have anything vegan. Instead, what would a vegan choose in that situation? They would probably ask the chef if they can take the cheese off the salad or whatever it is, right? You
Yep.
have to actively make those choices, because that's the only way that you can create that consistency and repetition.
Yeah.
Mm.
So true. So true. Um, okay. This has been amazing. I love this conversation. I feel like we could, go all
Oh,
afternoon.
I know, right? Totally.
But we should probably get into the Q&A, because
Mm.
we are, I don't want to take up your entire day, even though I would like to. But
Oh.
let's shift over, and we can continue this conversation. But let's shift over to the Q&A session. So anybody, if you have a question that you want us to address, leave it in the chat box, and if you could put question like 3 question marks before each question, that way it's much easier to pick out questions versus just people commenting. So I'm going to take us over into the Q&A room. Here we go. It's a fun little, oh, there we
Hey,
are. Look at
hey,
that.
hello.
Here we are. So we are at the Q&A board. Yeah, so please, anybody that has a question for myself or Lissa, please let us know in the chat box, and we would love to answer any questions you have. But while we wait for the questions to roll in, um, I saw a comment on. Okay, D Price said, just saw a YouTube story that we need to look in the mirror and say out loud, "I love you" 10 times every day. I think
Oh,
so. That is something that I didn't say I love you, but I looked in the mirror. So this was something back when I was first starting to become aware of like my toxic thinking patterns. And that was one of the first things that I did was I smiled at myself in the mirror every time I went in the bathroom. I would just smile at myself because I saw a video where I read something that just smiling triggers something in your brain where if you see yourself happy or you see yourself looking happy, you will start to feel happy. And so that was one of the first things I remember doing way back. And so I would every time I went in the bathroom or in front of a mirror, I would smile at myself. Um, and yeah, so that it really helped. As simple as that seems, it actually really helped. And so I think anybody that's like struggling with like depression or just like kind of feeling down, I think that is, not that's going to be the only thing that fixes you, but it's just one thing that you can add to your day, your daily routine that could help me.
that's cool. I love that. Yeah. Saying, and I feel like a lot of people feel, based on what society has like kind of indoctrinated us, is like to feel selfish if we do stuff like that. Like, I know a lot
Yeah.
of people be like, oh, that feels like too like vain or narcissistic or whatever. And it's like, but it's not. It's self-love, and self-love is so powerful. If we don't love ourselves, how can we love others? And it's not a narcissistic thing, it's not a selfish thing, it's just being grateful and appreciating you for who you are, instead of being all self-absorbed or whatever, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
it really is about just loving yourself genuinely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. And if you think about it, Yeah, I agree. The most the kind of just the general consensus is some of those things can be like self-centered or yeah, like but it's like if you the best way to impact others and to help others is to feel good yourself. Like if you feel good in yourself, you're going to be so much better and so much more motivated to help other people. You know, when people are like feeling down or like not great, they're usually not looking to help other people because they're just kind of in their own like world where they're just trying to feel better. But if you feel good about yourself and you're happy and you're just motivated and inspired, you're gonna help so many more people. So even if you initially might feel like, oh, I'm being like, um, you know, uh, whatever,
Yeah, I know you're
self-centered.
stepping out of your comfort zone too, because we're so
Yeah.
indoctrinated, right?
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Exactly. So yeah, that's just something to think about.
Aw.
Sherry thinks I need to smile in the mirror when I have tech issues. Yes, I do. It's it's frustrating. Um, let's see. D Price says, "Do you drink reverse osmosis or distilled water?"
We do reverse osmosis here in
Oh,
Vegas. So yeah, that's our choice.
nice, nice. Yeah, and I did reverse osmosis for many years, and then I got a distiller, so I do distilled. But yeah, I think they're both great. So
As long as you get that stuff out.
yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's
That's the whole
that's all I'm
point.
concerned
And
about. Yeah, get rid of
also
the
hydrating,
yeah.
making sure we're hydrated with whatever water source resonates most with you, and
Yep.
getting that water in. Because I notice a difference when I'm consistent with drinking more water, even though we eat raw food,
Mm-hmm.
it's still so much beneficial. And like even living in the desert,
Oh
like
yeah, I bet.
definitely need more water living here in the dry desert than, when we were in Oregon. It was a little like I wasn't as like needing the water, but here
Mm-hmm.
definitely notice a bigger difference when I drink more water.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I even in Minnesota here, I notice I feel better when I drink more water. So yeah, I think it's something that I think a lot of raw foodists kind of neglect. And so yeah, I think that's a good thing also to think about is your water intake. Tina says, "What is your go-to meal when you were just starting out on your raw food journey?"
For me, it was my French dressing
Ooh,
on a
nice.
salad. Yeah. And Nate too. He just said him too.
Cool.
So the French dressing for anyone watching, it's 5 dates. This makes one serving. So it's 5 dates. It's 2 cloves of garlic, or one if you want less garlic. The juice of 1 lemon, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, optional, and half a teaspoon of smoked paprika and an eighth of a teaspoon of chipotle powder.
Hmm.
Blend that with like a cup of water. Oh, it was just like, and lately we've been adding chia seeds to it to make sure we get more omega-3s. It
Nice.
doesn't really change the dressing much, like flavor wise.
Hmm.
So we would do that pretty much every single day for lunch. That was like the go-to, always making. And I would have a salad with romaine, dandelion greens, sprouts, lettuce, and cucumbers and tomatoes. I still do eat a ton of tomatoes.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
that's crazy. I love them. But yeah, it would be like what I would call a fruiting vegetable salad. So my main ingredients would be tomato, cucumber, and bell pepper. Those would be like the bulk of the salad. And then I would
Hmm.
have the greens and the sprouts and everything else in that one. So I found that to be best for me for lunch. Because living in Canada, fruit was pretty, unless it was summertime, we were getting nice peaches and nectarines. It was pretty slim pickings where I was
Yeah.
for fruit. So the salads were so nice for me to have. And those salads for lunch were nice because they were so hydrating that if I ate it before bed, I would tend to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the washroom because it's
Hmm.
so hydrating. So during the day, it was much better. And then at night, I would have my darker leafy greens, like way more sprouts, more vegetable based kind of things like carrots and grated beets or whatever I would put in my salad. And then I would have my fats in my evening salad. So that's kind of how I would do mine. And it was basically, yeah, I just would default to that because it was so easy. I
Hmm.
always had dates. and garlic and lemons on hand. I always had my spices. I could blend it up super, super fast and just pour it on my salad. And I loved it. So when you find that dressing recipe that you absolutely love, it's okay to make it often, right? So if it's going to
Yeah.
get you to eat big salads, go for it.
Yeah, totally. I still do that. I find something I like and I'll have it for days at a time. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good way to go. I'm actually trying to remember what my go-to recipe or meal was. I remember like for some reason the video I remember seeing the like that sticks out the most in my mind is was Arnold Kaufman from Arnold's Way, and he was making a green smoothie, and it was like a bunch of bananas and like 5 leaves of um chard or something. Um Collards. It was collards he threw in there, and he was just like, "Yeah, you can just throw as many greens as you want in here, and it makes a meal." And so that was one of the things that was kind of one of the reasons why I started making smoothies like to start my day, because again it was so easy. But another go to, see, my go tos like back in the day, I probably wouldn't even recommend to people today, because it's like I used to like make 6 avocado guacamole and like eat
Oh,
that and like um yeah, so I mean one of the easiest dressings that I would fall back on early on would just literally be like an avocado and mustard and like cayenne pepper and lemon juice, and that was pretty much it. That was before I started like really learning how to make decent salad dressings, because when I started making salad dressings, they weren't the greatest, and so I needed I wish I would have come across Lissa's salad dressings earlier. But yeah, so that was kind of how I got into it. Was really smoothies. They were kind of always my go-to if I was ever like hungry and I was like low on other stuff, because I would just make it with bananas and berries and some greens. And so I would usually have, bananas are usually pretty accessible, and you don't have to worry about the quality. And so the bananas, whatever greens I could find, and then I would always have some frozen berries on hand. And yeah, so that was kind of my go-to. And over time, again, I was making my big salads well before I even got into this lifestyle. So that was always also just kind of a staple, but it wasn't really a recipe or anything. I would just throw in a bunch of greens and yeah, some tomatoes and cucumber and celery and um yeah, and then just like my avocado or something. But yeah, so that's kind of how I started off.
Yeah. And also like our favorites change over the years,
Yeah,
right? You come across a new recipe and you're like, I'm gonna eat this forever because it's like the
yeah.
best new, right? But yeah, and over time, that was one of the other consistency things that I had on my list was variety, keeping things
Mm,
exciting and trying new recipes. Like right now, Nate and I are hooked on wraps and tacos. We eat
nice.
them so much. Like we're gonna have tacos tonight and we're having wraps for lunch. So
Love it.
and the cool thing is like you can use the salad dressing as the dressing for the wrap. Like you can dip the
Yeah.
wrap in the dressing and all that good stuff. So it's just like finding what works for you and also exploring new recipes, because you never know like what new favorite you're going to find from all different kinds of creators. And that's why I like being part of like the bundles when they come on,
Yeah.
because the bundles always have like new stuff that I can try from like other people. And I'm like, damn, this is good.
Right?
So it's cool to experience. Like, so I mean, your salad dressings, like the way that each creator creates their own unique palette is
Yeah.
so different from each other. So it's nice to try. Like your recipes were like, why don't we make more of Matt's salads? Right. Like, so it's cool to explore and get more variety in.
Yeah. Yeah, totally I totally or I agree. It's just like the bundle, which is another thing where, kind of got out of my comfort zone, and I have to, and I think I've probably given you credit before, but it wasn't until the bundles that you and Chris created that I started, I wouldn't have my books if it wasn't for that, because I had been going years where I was planning to write a book, but it was just going to be one book. And like, I just kept adding to it year after year. And I was just like compiling this massive amount of information. And I was like, God, this book is going to be like 500 pages. But then with the bundle, I, was able to, like, I was like, all right, I got to make something. Like, I have to finish a book, and I wasn't going to do this massive book. So I broke it down into different various books. And so, a lot of what I had in that one book that I was planning to write, which was like never going to get done. You guys gave me a deadline and a motivation to finally finish and like produce something, and so that's where this book came and all the others. And so yeah, so thank you for bringing that out of me, and just getting me out of my comfort zone and pushing me to create something. So yeah, I appreciate you and Chris and Nate for that. So yeah, very grateful.
Oh, you're so welcome. I know I love the bundles so much because we get to see people create new content. Like there's so much like old stuff out there, which is great for new people coming in. But for
Yeah.
people who've been, following us for a while, they like new, fresh things. And that's why we love the bundle, which the raw one's coming in May of 2024. But
Yeah.
But if people ever see a bundle, check it out because you never know what's inside, what you're going to find, kind of goodies you can get, and try
Yep.
new recipes. Like, don't be scared to choose one. Maybe set aside one day a week, say it's Saturday, or say you're off on Tuesdays or whatever. Then that can be your day to try a new recipe. Like get the ingredients beforehand and just explore. If you don't like it, that's okay. It's okay to not like everything that everyone makes,
Yeah.
but at least you tried, and try a new recipe the next day, right? And don't get like, oh, like nothing I make tastes good or whatever. Just keep trying because you will find something from somebody that really resonates with you, and
Yep.
that can help you start to move over to a raw diet, because a lot of people that try a recipe and they're like, oh, I can't do this, or I don't want to, and then they just give up,
Hmm.
right? But just keep going and keep trying new things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
and when you do that, when you try other people's recipes, even if you don't, because almost every time somebody does like takes recipes out of my book or whatever, they always end up like tweaking it a little bit to their own preference. So like try people's recipes and then tweak it, and all of a sudden you're gonna start learning like how to create your own stuff, right? And making it in a way that just fits your palate, just a little bit differently than anybody else's. So yeah, I think getting into like the bundles and getting all these different people's recipes and techniques and things, it only sets you up for future success in making your own perfect way, whatever is going to work best for you. So yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Mallory May says, do you think the raw food movement is growing every year? And also, does Lissa drink hot tea when she lived in Canada?
Oh, good questions. Thank you, Mallory. So I have always wanted to be a tea person because I love the concept of tea, and I love when I do drink tea. I am not a tea person, no matter
Mm.
how hard I try. I've got teas in the cupboard that are like years old, and I want to. It's just weird. Like, for some reason, it's like I make a tea and then I forget about it because it's too hot or whatever. I do like cold brew. So for like the raw aspect of it, I do really like cold brewing tea because I let it sit forever anyways. So might as well just let it sit
Yeah.
and drink it when I have the chance to. But in Canada, I didn't do a whole lot of tea. I would probably drink one if I was like out for coffee with a friend or something. I'd get a tea. But it wasn't necessary for me to feel warm, because I know that's what a lot of people will use it for, which is totally fine. I would recommend teas that stimulate circulation, like a lemon cayenne rosemary tea or something like that,
Mm.
that would really get circulation going if you're using it for that reason. If you're just using it for coziness, you can do that too. Like, there's nothing wrong with, if you want to have a tea here and there, no big deal. But for me, I've always wanted to be a tea person, but I'm not. So but what was the other question? The raw food,
Do you think the raw food movement is growing?
I do think it's growing. I think more people are learning about it. I see new people coming onto the scene every once in a while. I'll see someone new who's enjoying the lifestyle. And the more people that share about the lifestyle, the more other people can learn about what we're doing and how we're eating and that kind of thing. So I do think it's growing. I think veganism is growing a lot faster, obviously, than raw.
Mhm.
But I think that my overall reason for being online, I'm not here to make people 100% raw. If they want to be 100% raw, I'm here to help them if they want that. But what my goal is, and Nate's as well, is to inspire people to eat more raw food, to
Mm.
go vegan and to eat more raw food. Whether they go all raw or not is their own prerogative. If they want to try all raw and see how they feel and work towards that, that's cool too. But the whole point is to eat more raw food and to take away the stigma of rabbit food, right? Like when
Yeah.
people hear raw vegan, they think you live on carrots and lettuce. And it's like, well, we eat a lot of really good things. And I noticed that a lot because I've had quite a few wrap reels go viral on Instagram. Like I have one going viral right now. It's like getting close to 1 million
Nice.
views. And it's really fascinating to see the broad spectrum of people out there who have no idea about raw food, or they have stereotypes linked
Mhm.
with raw food or veganism, for example, too. So it's really, I mean, I love the viral reels because it reaches a lot of people, but I also don't like them because it comes with a lot of a
Trolls.
lot of interesting individuals out there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
but I do think it's growing, and the more of us who share about it, even if it's just, even if it's not online or whatever, just choosing raw in front of other people exposes them to raw food as well. And they might be interested in having a salad with you or trying my wraps or whatever it is. But just sharing in your own circle can help to change the world slowly with time. But yeah, it's all about us sharing and continuing to be consistent. Because the more consistent we are with it, the more people see how serious we are with it,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're flip flopping back and forth, you're like, oh, well, one day I'll eat this thing or whatever. And, you're flip flopping. People don't take it as serious as if every single time you're like, nope, I'm choosing this because I prefer this instead. And changing the words that you use as well. Like, instead of saying, I can't have this, say, I choose this instead. So that people see that you are making the choice and it's not that you can't have it. Like you could, but you don't want to. You want this other thing instead. So like switching the words that we share with others can help open it a little bit more instead of making it more restrictive. Mhm.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I mean, and I agree. I mean, I think the raw movement, at least it's growing, but I think the acceptability of it is
Mm,
growing, even more. I think people
mm,
are more open to it, and thanks to people like Lissa and the people that have been showing others how it's not like a weird thing to do. It's weird compared to other people, the normal, but it's not like crazy. It's very doable. So I think the acceptance of the raw movement is becoming more, you know, more acceptable. So
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. I know, and it ebbs and flows as well. Like
yeah.
recently in the last couple of months, we lost 4 of our favorite places that we could eat raw food at.
Ah,
Like here
really?
in Vegas, Veg Nation closed. We lost Pixie Retreat in Portland. We
Hmm.
lost NW Raw in Ashland. We lost Go Vegan Cafe here in Vegas as well. So like we're losing a lot of places, but I think that a lot of people don't um they don't know enough about it, but also like just the economy in general,
Yeah.
rents going up, so these places don't get enough people coming in to support them to pay the rent increases.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of other factors that happen, because I know I've had some people say like, oh, is the raw movement dying because all these raw places are closing? And I don't think it is. I think it's just the economy
Hmm.
and what's happening with rents and availability and food prices and all of that
Yeah.
is causing a lot of that problem. But as at an individual level, I do think it's growing. More people are embracing more raw food, like you said, like it's more acceptable. It's like have a raw meal every day or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So it's not so rabbit food or crazy to do, because
Yeah.
it's just food. I
I know.
mean,
I know. D Price says, "Can you give pointers on how to pick produce that does not contain a peel? This might be a question for John K." They said.
right. Yeah, yeah, might be a better one for John. But it should have the label on it, if it has it on it. So
Yeah.
I have not seen that label yet, so I don't know. But always going with local, obviously growing your own. We grow a lot of our own microgreens and sprouts and stuff. So again, it's we live in an imperfect world, right? And when people ask me sometimes, they're like, do you eat all organic? There's no way that we could get the variety in all organic or even afford most stuff all organic.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially out of season stuff. So, I tell people to work with where they're at and make the best choices that align with their finances, their time, their location, or anything like that. Because it's imposing perfectionism on somebody, saying, like, oh, well, you're not healthy because you still eat conventional lettuce or whatever, is like discounting the fact that they're actually choosing something healthy for themselves. And
Right.
we should be uplifting people for choosing something better than, right? John Kohler would always say, better than,
Yeah.
right? It's like, yeah, good, better,
Good,
best.
better,
Yeah,
best. Yeah.
good, better, best. It's like, well, could you make a different choice? Is there a different choice? If there's not, then at least it's better than going to McDonald's, or it's better than, eating a bag of potato chips, or it's better than not eating at all, or it's better than, what other choice that you have. So most people, who are living in food deserts they don't have that luxury. So if they're working 3 jobs and they can't afford for their family, right? Like we have to give people a little bit more leeway in this imperfect world that we live in. And if we all make better choices to our ability, then we can change the world instead of imposing perfectionism on everybody. Like, you have to do this, otherwise I'm going to unfollow you because you're using plastic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
that's so true. I know. That's something that I try and also get across to people is like the perfectionism is like just it's not helpful. And yeah, I think doing the best you can is going to be the best that you can do. Like that's just what you got to do. You got to do nobody knows what's best for you better than you. And so what you can do is going to be based on your situation. And yeah, with the appeal thing, um as far as I know, at this time, they only have it on I think avocados, limes,
Apple.
apples.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, it's only a
those are the
few
three
things.
that I know.
Yeah.
And you can go
And
to
it
their
says
website.
on the sticker too.
Yeah, yeah. They should
Mhm.
have a sticker on there. But you can also go to the website and there's a store tracker and it shows you which stores carry appeal products. And so that's another way that you can kind of take a look. But yeah, so Fruit Carl from Fruit Scotland says, any back to basics advice for someone who has been mostly raw for 1 year, like top nutrients to look out for and where to find them?
Well, that's a really good question.
Yeah,
Okay, so from my side, and you can add when you're
sure.
after.
Yep.
Um, so I think that the number one thing that I look for in my diet and what Nate looks for in his is variety. Number one is variety, and also making sure that we eat enough calories for the day as well. So when we eat enough calories and we eat a wide variety, it's pretty easy to cover everything that you need. But some of the things that people I've coached have been low on would be calcium, iron, selenium, vitamin E. Um, those are pretty much iodine, maybe. But those are pretty much the top kind of typical ones that I've seen. So for iron, one of the top foods that you can have for iron is sunflower microgreens, and they're
Mm,
really easy to grow. 1 cup chopped, which is about an ounce of sunflower microgreens, has 6 milligrams of iron.
wow.
That's incredible. Like considering a man needs about 8 a day
Yeah.
and a menstruating woman needs around 18. That's a huge amount. So we try to have sunflower microgreens very often in our diet to get the iron that we need, but greens of all kinds, and that goes for calcium as well. And I know there's a lot of people out there who say, well, what about the anti-nutrients and all this stuff? So really the oxalates that are found in like spinach or beet greens, I guess, like some of those, we don't really, we don't focus on those to get our calcium, because the calcium in the spinach is bound with the oxalates, but it's not like if you eat spinach, all the calcium you ate all the rest of the day is gone. Right?
Yeah.
It's only the calcium in the spinach. So it's just not a reliable source of calcium. That's all. So you find other foods that are high in calcium, like bok choy and oranges and sesame seeds. And like there's countless foods, lots of greens out there that have lots of calcium in it. You don't have to rely on spinach to get your calcium. So that said, also, when you start eating smaller amounts of oxalate full foods, like in small amounts, you can actually grow a gut species in your gut called oxalobacillus, which actually digests the oxalates in the food. So some of the nutrients are a little bit more available. And Nate and I both have very high levels of oxalobacillus. So we can eat a little bit more oxalate foods if we wanted to, and not have as many detrimental effects from them. But iron and calcium, definitely all your greens are really high sources, but the microgreens are definitely our tops. Vitamin E usually is found in nuts and seeds, but since we eat smaller amounts of those in our diet, tomatoes and mangoes would be our top choices for vitamin E, especially mangoes are pretty good source from a fruit. And then, yeah, like iodine, our sea veggies, dulse is probably our favorite. Kelp you have to be a little careful of because you can overdose on iodine from kelp if
Mm.
you're using way too much of it. So dulse is a much better option. Just sprinkle it on your salads, or crumple up nori sheets on top of your salad or whatever. Or you could take like Daily Green Boost, which has iodine in it as well. So yeah, would you add any classic ones to that? Like
No, I
Brazil
mean,
nut, selenium.
yep. I was gonna say that. So that's one thing that I use in a lot of my dressings is
Mm.
Brazil nuts. So I'll use some Brazil nuts and then a different like either hemp seeds or almonds or sesame seeds, something else. But yeah, I try so that I'm making sure that I'm getting my selenium. I will have a few Brazil nuts in my dressing, and that's I make dressing for a couple days, so you don't have to use multiple Brazil nuts if you're making it just for your one salad. But I like to make a big batch and just have it for a few days. So yeah, I put Brazil nuts in my dressing for the selenium. And everything you said, I completely agree with. What I was
Oh,
gonna
you can
say.
touch on omega-3 too.
Oh yeah, omega threes. Yep. Um, so I think everything Lissa said, and then one thing that I always just tell people is eat whole foods. Whole
Yes.
foods is where if you stick to just whole foods and you don't, make your diet out of packaged fake meats or, anything else, products, you're going to be getting a lot of the nutrition that you need, as long as you're doing what Lissa said, and that is eating enough and getting variety. So whole foods, eat enough, get variety. You should cover most of your needs, and like Lissa said, you can add a green powder like Vitamineral Green, or something else. Just get in like a few nuts and seeds to get like the selenium and the the higher amounts of omega 3s if you're going to go with hemp, chia, flax, or um, walnuts. And so yeah, though that would be basically what I would say. And that's one reason why I have made a 5-star salad as like my big thing to share with people, because when you eat a massive amount of greens, you're getting I mean, greens are like the super vitamin of it's like the multivitamin of the plant kingdom, right? So if you eat a large amount of greens every single day, you're going to cover a lot most of your micronutrient needs. And then of course get in the variety of different things. But if you base your diet around greens and fruits and a little bit of nuts and seeds, then you can add in like the dulse or seaweed. I don't think there's much concern about missing out on anything when you do it that way.
Yeah. And also keeping your omega-3 to 6 balance ratio, because I do see a
Yeah.
lot of people, they're eating so many omega-6s.
Yep.
And in the omega-6, like omega-6 and omega-3 both use the exact same enzyme to convert it.
Yeah.
So omega-3, to convert it to EPA and DHA, you need the same enzyme that omega-6 takes to convert into the pro-inflammatory version of omega-6 as it's broken down. So if you're eating so many omega-6s, which are easy to get, I mean,
Yeah.
come on, like every fat, right?
Yes.
Eating so many peanuts are like super high in omega-6, and even like avocados and all of that. So you're eating this many omega-6s, your enzyme is too busy working with all of this, and your omega-3s are like, right? So if we can lower it to, like, ideal is a 1-to-1 ratio up to about 4-to-1. That way the enzyme can kind of work on both. And so you will be converting omega-3 into EPA and DHA when you lower your omega-6 and then increase your omega-3. Again, 1-to-1 is ideal. But if you do want that conversion, start looking at your omega-6, because I know people eating so many of them, which
Yes.
I mean, those are the tasty ones. Like flax and chia are great, but they're not creamy.
Right. Right.
They're higher in
Yeah.
fiber than they are fats, really.
Yep. Yeah, I got my omega-3 test done through Omega Quant, and
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering correctly, I was at 4-to-1. So my
Mhm.
ratio is 4-to-1, omega-6 to omega-3.
Perfect.
So
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And getting tested too is so important, because I feel like a lot of people, they're like, well, I feel great, I don't need to test.
yeah,
But it's like, but deficiencies come over time.
mm-hmm,
If you're not consistently up with checking out your own body, then you might be missing out on potential, health down the road if you're not checking up on yourself. Like I did a blood test just like a couple months ago, I think. So my vitamin B is like in the high 600s. I think it's like 680 or something like that. My vitamin D is really good. And of course,
awesome.
we get our gut microbiome test every 6 months. So that's
Yep.
like we're like, love our gut microbiome tests. But yeah, we're sitting in the 94th percentile for gut
Nice.
health. So doing something right.
Yeah, great.
But
That
it's
makes me
nice to
wonder
know.
who is that other, well, you said 94th? Who's the other 6%?
Well,
Like,
it's 94, yeah, 94th percentile based on what they feel a perfect gut is.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
I don't know if there's people with better guts. It's just
Right.
based on their database, like what would be a perfect score. We're
Yeah,
at 94% of what they think. And I mean, everybody has stuff to work on, right?
sure.
In guts. And for me, I need to lower a certain pathogenic bacteria that I've probably been working on for the last 9 years, because
Mm-hmm.
I came from really serious gut issues. So eating a lot of onions and a lot of allium rich foods can help to decrease this certain bacteria. That's one reason why I eat a lot of onions. But also I need to increase my roseburia. As we discussed earlier, psyllium is really good for increasing roseburia bacteria. And then I think as I lower that one pathogen and increase my roseburia, my gut score is going to continue to go up, because it'll be more ideal. Everything will be in the right ranges or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's an ongoing thing. And that's why I like to test, because you don't want to take your health for face value and just be like, oh, I feel great. Right. Like you
Yeah.
don't know what's going on inside.
Totally
Mhm.
agree. Yeah, totally agree. And for me, I think it's fun. Like it's
Yeah,
just a
I think
fun
it's fun
thing for
too.
me to
I know.
see what the results are of what I've been doing. So, yeah. Let's see. Annie said you both have amazing dressings or awesome dressings. Thank you, Annie.
Mhm.
Dawn said any replacement ideas for mushrooms? I can't seem to get myself to like them.
It really honestly depends on the recipe. For me, like if you're doing marinated mushrooms for a salad, you could totally replace those with like zucchini or more bell peppers or whatever vegetable you want. But if it's in a recipe, specifically for the mushroom flavor or for the texture, it can be a little hard to swap out. But again, zucchini is a really great one texture wise to replace mushrooms with. So it really depends on the recipe, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes
But
sense
I
to
like
me.
marinated. Marinated are so good.
Right, marinated, and I saw Sherry recommended dehydrating them, and that can
Yeah.
change the flavor and texture. So yeah, there's a few
Mm-hmm.
things you can definitely do.
Yeah.
I see Nate is going to start making. Go. I'm so bad at
That's
doing
okay.
the live and then looking at the chat. He's gonna make some tempeh. Is that?
Oh, yes. Yes. We are actually going to start making our own tempeh unpasteurized. So that's something that a lot of people have been asking, like, well, isn't tempeh cooked? And yeah, you cook the beans first, but the end product is a living food. So we call ourselves raw, vegan, and living foods. So
Yeah.
living foods are a different category. I consider them raw, even though they're cooked beforehand, because they're alive. They have so much life going on in them, and they're so beneficial to our gut microbiome. So we want to add more things like we consider fermented foods to be living foods. Although we ferment raw, we don't cook our stuff first.
Hmm.
But some stuff like miso, coconut aminos are heated after fermentation. So there's some little things that we consider to be acceptable on a raw diet. I know not everyone's going to agree with us, and that's okay. But we think that tempeh, unpasteurized, is such an incredible thing to add to a raw diet. If you're looking for, number one, more protein, a lot of people might want that. But also it tastes amazing, especially in a wrap or a burger. And number one is they're getting the microbiome benefits from ingesting the tempeh. So yeah, we are going to start making our own tempeh
Very
at home.
nice. That sounds delicious. I can't wait to see how it turns out. Did you get that idea from John? I think John does he make
Oh,
that or
well,
I've seen him make videos about it like way
yeah,
long in the past.
way back in the day.
Yeah.
So the reason why we started is because we go to LA with John, and in LA, there's at the Mar Vista Farmers Market. For anyone in LA, Mar Vista, every second and fourth Sunday of the month, huh? Yeah, San Diego tempeh is
Oh,
at the
yeah.
Mar Vista Market, and they sell unpasteurized tempeh. So it's
Cool.
actually like unpasteurized. Anything that you buy in the store is pasteurized for the most part. I think it's
Nice.
pretty rare to get tempeh in the store that's not, and that would be heated. So basically, you're not getting the bacterial gut benefits if you're not eating it unpasteurized. Not as much, right? You still get the prebiotic fibers and stuff, but you want the living bacteria. So we started going to LA, and every time we'd go, we'd be like, oh, is it the second or fourth Sunday? Like, oh, let's go to my and get the tempeh. And we'd get like bricks of it. And then for like a couple, maybe a week, because it goes bad after like 2 or 3 days, but
Hmm.
about a week, we'd freeze some, but we would be eating lots of tempeh, and we're just like really enjoying the tempeh. So when we'd get home, we wouldn't go back to LA for like months, and we'd be like, oh, because you can't get unpasteurized here. So Raw Chef Yin, who is part of a lot of the bundles, and she's a raw vegan, she makes her own tempeh. And
Right.
we're going to get her course on how to make it. But I think John has made his own as well. So, but when we
Okay.
go, John always buys it from San Diego because they make a black bean mung bean one. That's our absolute favorite. It's so
Cool.
good.
Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, tempeh, it's delicious. So if it was like if you could get like a actually living tempeh, yeah, I mean that sounds amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see. Sherry said John takes up the rest of the 6%. That may be true. That may be true.
Oh, no, our score is a little higher than
Oh,
John's.
that's right. I do remember that. I can't remember if he said that or you said that, but yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think
funny.
he said, "Oh yeah, I have friends that have way higher." That's us.
Yeah, yeah. I figured it was. I figured it was.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, but he really sees what we're doing, and he's like, "I need to do more of stuff that you guys are doing or whatever," because
yeah.
he sees our gut microbiome scores are constantly like increasing every time, but we
Yep.
tweak We change things, we work towards that. Not because we have to, but because it's fun. Like you said, like
Right.
it's really cool, it's fun, and to
Yeah.
see how we can change stuff that's happening in our bodies. But yeah, we're the friends that have the higher microphones.
I love that. That's so cool. And that just goes to show. I mean, what has John been doing this for like almost 30 years or something? And so, yeah, I mean, it's like you can learn, that's why it's so important to connect with people is because you start to learn new things from different people. So everybody's got something to teach and everybody's got something to inspire you with. So I think it's just so important to connect with other people and just, get to know people and have fun with learning about the lifestyle and all this stuff. So
Agree.
for sure. All right, last question. All right, let's see. We got one more, I think. Um, oh, maybe not. I thought there was another one. Did I miss
That's
it?
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. It's all right. We've gone quite a while here. So you
That's
guys
all good.
got your hike, and so let's give away the ebook. So let's see. We're gonna just scroll through here, and I kind of just go by wherever my mouse lands, because I don't yet have a better tactic or a technique for picking a name out of here. But so here we go. We're scrolling, and we're gonna go with D Price. So D Price, thank you for your questions. You're gonna get a free copy ebook of 21 Day Raw Transformation Program. And then I'm also going to put the link in there for Lissa's vegan resource, that anybody is going to be able to actually get. I'll put it in the description box. I think I lost it since we had to restart a couple times. So I'll put it back in there and it'll be there. So definitely go check that out. Thank you, everybody. This was interesting episode with a lot of technical issues, but I loved the conversation. It always is amazing with Lissa. So, Lissa, thank you so much for joining the show and sharing your wisdom with us. Is there anything you would like to end with before we sign off?
Aw, thank you, Matt, so much. You are a gem, and you're full of inspiration as well. And I'm just so blessed and honored to be on your show. And I know Nate's excited for his show with you too.
Yes.
So that's going to be really fun. But to close, what could I close with? I usually close with, I know there's so many things I can say. Oh
Yeah.
my God. But like to wrap up the consistency thing is just to be patient with yourself. Be
Yeah.
patient, because a lot of people, like we talked about in the beginning, the feeling of feeling overwhelmed with trying to be consistent, or feeling like sad or guilty or regret your decisions that you made that weren't quite on point. Remember to take any mistakes as learning opportunities of how you can do better next time, and be gentle with yourself, be positive with yourself, like we talked about, but be patient. Patience is like one of those lifelong ongoing things that we all have to continually learn how to
Yeah.
be patient, especially in this world of this, and absolutes and guarantees that you see all over the internet. Like, you will heal this, or you'll never get sick, or well, like all of these things are coming at us, and we feel like we have to be perfect in order to get any benefit whatsoever, when really in reality it's all just progress. It's like going to the gym, it's like going to bed early. The more you do it, the easier it gets, the better you'll feel. And it's just your journey. Like, not to compare yourself to anybody else, just compare yourself to the you from yesterday. And what Matt said earlier on, he was like, I just thought about what I did and what worked, and then I just repeated it the next day. Just continue to do that and be patient with yourself, because it takes time. It's not how long is it going to take, right? Because so many people ask me that. They're like, how long does it take before cravings go away, or before I lose weight, or before I do this, or before this happens, or before I
Mm-hmm.
heal? How long? And to me, there's no time frame. It's how many times will you repeat the habit? That is what's going to determine where you end up in the future. It's how many times do you repeat it? That's what's going to get you the results. It's not time frame, because person A could be choosing 3 raw meals a week for 6 months, and person B could be choosing 3 raw meals a day for 6 months, and they would both have very dramatic difference differences in habit building, because it's just based on repetition. So be patient, keep repeating, focus one day at a time, and love yourself. Remember to put yourself first, because if you put yourself first, you can put more energy into others, into your job, into your hobbies, into service to others, into just everything is better when you fuel yourself up first, when you give yourself that self-love. Everything just is better. So that's what I would end on.
Yeah, no, that is perfect. I love that. I just wanted to mention quick, somebody, I missed it. I was just scrolling up. Uh, Carl said, Lissa's mom is incredible. She was such a beautiful discovery for me. Uh,
Oh,
Wanted to
thank
point that
you,
out.
Mama. Yeah, she's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right. Well, again, oh, and D Price, just email me at matt@myrawintuition.com and I'll get you that ebook. And yeah, everybody else, thank you so much. Lissa, thank you as always. Great to see you as always. And I look forward to having Nate on the show too. Nate will be on the 19th. So
nice.
stick around for that. But yeah, thank you everybody for being here. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. I'll be on time this time, and no technical issues we'll hope for. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Lissa. Have a great day, and always follow your raw intuition.
Mhm.